Welcome to CBS Easy.
How do you survive the unthinkable? I mean, really think about it. A city under siege for years, a deadly plague sweeping through your hometown. When history throws something that massive at you, how do you even begin to process it?
Turns out, one of the most powerful things you can do is write it down. You see, personal accounts, diaries, journals, they become these incredible windows into the past. It's not just about the facts of what happened, it's about what it actually felt like to live through it.
All right, let's get into it. Today we are decoding history by looking at two absolutely incredible journals of crisis. We're going to explore two totally different moments in time, two very different disasters, all through the eyes of the people who were actually there.
So, first up, we're going to look at the diary of a teenage girl named Lina Muhikaina. She lived through one of the most brutal military sieges in all of human history, the Siege of Leningrad during World War II.
Look at that number, 872 days. I just want you to let that sink in for a moment. That's almost 2.5 years, 2.5 years that this city was completely cut off from the rest of the world, under constant, relentless attack.
And this quote, wow, it is just bone-chilling. It shows you how their entire world was turned upside down. Can you imagine being so terrified that you actually learned to hate a beautiful sunny day or a clear moonlit night? The things we find beautiful became signals for pure terror.
So what was life actually like? Well, it was a daily fight for survival. Constant air raids were the norm. Lina writes about how any early curiosity about the war just dissolved into fear. And then, under the crushing weight of what she calls appalling hunger and cold, it just became apathy. Bread rations were cut 5 times, down to a tiny 125 grams. To put that in perspective, that's about the weight of an apple per day. The idea of just going to a store and buying food, that was a distant memory.
All right, so keeping all that in mind, here's a question that really gets you inside their heads. Why on earth would people who are freezing to death actually welcome bad weather? It seems totally backwards, right? And here's why. It was all about visibility. A storm, thick clouds, heavy fog, all of that meant the German bombers couldn't see their targets. Bad weather was like a temporary shield. It was a horrible trade-off, really. You'd be more miserable from the cold, but you had a slightly better chance of not being blown up.
Okay, now let's jump way back in time. We're going to shift gears from a military siege to a very different kind of enemy, an invisible one. We're heading to the 17th century with Daniel Defoe's A Journal of the Plague Year to see how London dealt with disaster.
You know, one of the most fascinating things Defoe points out is how information itself worked back then. There were no real newspapers. News about the plague came in slowly, through private letters from merchants, and then it was just passed around by word of mouth only. Just think about that compared to today, where news and of course rumors spread instantly all over the world.
And this timeline shows that the disaster didn't just happen overnight. It was a slow burn. It starts as a problem way over in Holland. It takes a full year for rumors to even reach London. The government kind of knows, but they keep it quiet. When the first people die, their families try to hide it. It only becomes public, official knowledge when doctors finally confirm it and it gets printed in the public death records.
Now, if you try to read Defoe today, some of the language can be a little tricky. So think of this as a quick cheat sheet. If you see the word whence, it just means from where. Whither means to where. And if an idea had gotten some vent, it just means people were talking about it. Little translations like these make it so much easier to read.
So, we have these two completely different crises documented in two very powerful journals. Let's put them side by side and see what we find.
And this is really the key difference, isn't it? For Leningrad, the threat was external. It was a visible human enemy you could see and hear. The response was raw fear and dread. But in London, the threat was an invisible enemy, spreading silently from within. And that led to a totally different reaction, one built on rumors, secrets, and hiding the truth.
Okay, to really get the most out of these texts, especially if you're studying them, it helps to break down the language. So let's switch gears and build a quick little language toolkit to sharpen up your vocab and grammar skills.
Let's start with a great idiom from the reading, quaking in its boots. It's such a great phrase, right? You can just picture it. It simply means to be trembling because you're incredibly scared or nervous.
All right, time for a quick grammar challenge. Let's fly through these. First one should learn to defend oneself. Second, I am sure they are yours. And for the last one, the fire caused serious
Damage. How did you do?
Next up, contractions. We use them all the time when we talk. The rule is super simple. You just take two words, like should and not, squish them together, and then replace the letter you kicked out, in this case the O, with an apostrophe. Boom! You get shouldn't.
Okay, your turn. A little pop quiz. I'll give you the long version. You think of the contraction. Ready? First up, you should not. Next, they have. Then, let us. And finally, he did not. Got 'em?
And here are the answers. You shouldn't eat so much. They've written the story. Let's go watch a movie. And he didn't play tennis. See? Simple as that.
So we end right back where we started, with the simple, incredible power of writing things down. Seeing what these two journals managed to preserve for all of us, it kind of leaves you with one last big question. If you wrote a journal about your life today, what story would it tell the future about our world?
Thank you for watching with us. See you next time.